Hello, Heather. Thank you for being here. It's been a while since I've seen you, and now you're not even in the United States of America anymore. It's it's hard to
Yeah.
keep up with you.
Yes, it is. Yes, it is. I've always moving.
Well, this audience would have remembered is on the Don't Wait Project tour in 2000. Well, in 2018, I met you, and you were in Colorado, and then we met up again in 2019 because your story had made a big shift, and you were now in Austin, Texas, and did the renovation probably of your lifetime. I saw the before and after pictures, and even when I visited you in Texas, you weren't quite done yet. So you were there for 5 years, and now let's talk about Spain, but first let's talk about just what Austin ended up meaning to you, making that big change, moving to where you didn't know anyone, leaving a neighborhood and getting acreage, and your kids had to find things to do. They didn't have a friend right next door to play with. All of these things were kind of the goals. And I wonder what the outcome was looking back at it now that you left that space and you're on to the next place.
Mhm. Yeah. So moving from Colorado, sorry, it's like really echoey.
It's fine.
Because I'm sitting in my brand new apartment in Spain. It's totally empty. So, in moving from Colorado to Austin, um, there were a lot of things that um I think that we wanted for our kids, and that we wanted for each other, like for ourselves as well. I personally had honestly, like a mental breakdown in 2017. A lot of things had happened to me. I had three major kind of like life changing, life altering things happen. And it just kind of woke me up to, I think, more of who I was created to be instead of who I was trying to be, or who I thought I was supposed to be. Um, Honestly, I had a very spiritual awakening. My little brother was diagnosed with stage 4 cancer, and I literally watched him like wither away every single day for an entire year until he passed away. And that just, that in and of itself, I mean, I had two other huge things on top of that, but that in and of itself just really makes you question life. And it just, there's so many questions that come up, honestly. And kind of like, well, why him and not me? And, on my brother's deathbed, he's actually my younger brother. He made me promise that I would go live basically like the life that he didn't get to live. Um, and and so I just really thought a lot about that, and I didn't. I guess I guess up to that point, I had really um, focused on what society told me I should be or I should do.
Or you should have, because you'd built the beautiful house in Colorado, you lived in a beautiful area, you had the house, the dog, the kids, the dentist husband. You guys were kind of living what a lot of people think the dream is. And
Yeah.
and I remember at the time visiting you in Colorado and you guys saying, "Hey, we're going to pack all this up and move into an RV and see where we land." And then you landed in Austin. And I wonder, what about, especially, I've met all of your kids, and what about the life your kids were living specifically was not what you wanted for them, but you knew you could give them something different, something more? And we'll get to Spain, but even just making that move to Austin, what difference did you see in them when you made that move? Aside from what you and Joe were feeling, what could you see in your kids that you wanted better for? And how did that turn out for you? And were there still challenges, obviously, but were you able to give them more of what you'd hope for their lives?
Right. So, to be brutally honest, um, I would say I would say the move was more about me. and giving my children the gift of a healthy and happy mother who has done the work and worked through her crap.
Yeah.
You know, and in Colorado, from the outside, we did have it all. I mean, we were like #1 pinned farmhouse, modern farmhouse on Pinterest. We were on the cover of magazines. We were, you know, HGTV was picking us up. We had done several pitches with them, and yeah, my husband was running this $1 million practice, and from the outside, like, we literally had it all, but honestly, on the inside, we were crumbling, and my kids were suffering. They were unhappy. We were just all, I feel like we were all in this like pressure cooker to like look good from the outside, honestly. And when we're like, and to plaster a pretend smile on our face when really we were not. But that's the thing with, you know, society and magazines and
social media. I mean, you had a huge following, thousands and thousands of followers. So that's the biggest misconception of whatever you want to put on there is what people are going to see and nothing more. When you got to Austin and you made the move and you lived there and you were there 5 years, how soon, and you know, we can pick ourselves up and move to a new place and that's not going to change a thing. If it's just, everything's going to follow us, grief, whatever it is that we're feeling, insecurities, whatever it is. So what about the work you did? Let's take a break. And I want to know, what about the work you did made Austin, not necessarily geographically, the beginning of the answer for your happiness and your family, but the work you took with you to Austin? Let's take a break. We'll come back in just a moment. We're back talking with Heather. You are calling in from Spain. We're talking about your relocation to Austin, Texas from Colorado, where we met, living the dream. What about moving to Austin and the work you did there? How did the transformation come about for you? What do you think was the kind of the biggest shift that happened that enabled you to take better care of your mental health so you could take better care of your family?
Yeah, you know, I think when I was in Colorado, you know, plastering all this happy face and living everybody's dream life, including our own, I think I just realized the biggest and best gift I could ever give my children really is a healthy mom. And so we found acreage in Austin, and it was very, very secluded. And it was kind of like a safe haven, basically. And it was really something where I knew that if I could do the work on myself and I could learn how to do it, and I could heal myself and kind of, you know, process through a lot of trauma that I had gone through as a child and just really process my life. Because to be honest with you, I was running from my life. And even though I had accomplished so many things, there was never an end. I just kept going. And that was the coping mechanism that I used.
I think sometimes we create more things, right? The more we are attempting to achieve, the more distracted we are by the things we're really trying to deal with. You know, I've built an entire career around trying to really use the things that I've been through for a purpose to help other people think about living a don't wait life, to share stories like yours for people to be inspired who feel the things that you felt. And in truth, it was really me. I don't know how to live without my late husband on this planet. So how do I keep him around and do it in a thoughtful, mission purposed way and try to heal myself along the way, right? I mean, I think that so many of the things that we do, there's a ripple effect, and there's these different, it's like it touch all different areas of our lives. And if we try to do it in a healthy way, then maybe we end up helping some other people along the way. right? Instead of stuffing it and trying to create this persona. I mean, I was a high functioning griever by all accounts, people looking outside in, but I was pretty broken until I started storytelling and focusing on a story outside of my own. So for you, what was it that made that shift for you? And is it something you can put your finger on? Or was it just the time of showing up for yourself and getting out of that kind of race for the Joneses or the Millers living next door and trying to keep up that persona? What was the biggest shift for you?
Yeah, I mean, it was definitely my brother dying, and me realizing just how fragile life is, and really taking a look in the mirror and asking myself, who am I, and why am I here? You know, and am I living the life really that God created me to live, and am I becoming the person that God created me to be? And I'm a very spiritual person, and so spirituality played a big part in that. And at that moment, I think I just had this very, very strong desire to fulfill the life that God created me to fulfill, and to really become the person He created me to be. And what I was living was nowhere near that. And so that was definitely the most pivotal moment.
One thing that I'll give it to your husband, Joe, whom I've also met and spent time with, talking with both of you, because had he not been open to this idea you had for your family and the shift that you wanted to make, and he'd said, no, I built this practice, I've worked real hard for it, I want to keep it, I want to keep all this stuff, right? Because he probably had some of that attached to his own perception of who he wanted to be in the world, right? Outside looking in. He was very successful at what he'd done. He had this beautiful wife and family and a practice and all of the things. If he'd have not been open to what you needed, it might have severed your family, because you probably wouldn't have been able to navigate it quite the way you were able to navigate it together. Hopefully not, but it could have. It would have made it harder if he had not said, yeah, let's pack it up and go. So what has having that support meant to you? And I mean, I'm not saying that the first time you brought it up, he said, yeah, let's do it. Might have taken some convincing, but what about having him in your corner on that? Whatever it took to get him there, what about that helped you find your way?
Yeah. Well, I mean, he walked with me through that year. In 2017 was really a really hard year. And he had seen, all the things that I had gone through. And one of them was actually mutual. Something that really, with the HGTV thing, we were getting pitched and we thought we would be doing renovation shows. And he was actually doing part-time renovations with me. And so that kind of crumbled, and that came to a halt. And so he was definitely actually involved in that as well. But to have his support for sure was, and still is, amazing. The thing is I actually really, I think I came up with the idea, but I didn't really have to push too hard.
Yeah.
Because I think he was also in the same boat.
Yeah.
We built our dream house, and it was kind of like we've arrived, right? I remember thinking when we moved in, we were like, oh my gosh, this has been our dream for so long. And it was in the same year that, his practice like hit $1 million. And we were just like, this is it. and it was literally so disappointing. And
you're like, we arrived, but where are you? Right? Not quite where you thought you'd land. Yeah.
Well, I think really what it came down to was we were like, we've arrived, but what have we sacrificed to get here? And I think at that point, the sacrifices became we became aware of the sacrifices of what it took to get there, and also what it was going to take to maintain that life.
Yeah.
And at that point, we were just like not willing to do that, and we knew that so much of who we were was being sacrificed for who we wanted to appear to be like.
Mm-hmm.
And we just, I don't know, I think God just gave us so much courage to just rip the Band-Aid off, to be honest with you, and say, yeah, restart, let's go, you know?
Well, let's take a break. You're in Spain, you've mentioned, and your whole family's just moved to Europe. You left your Austin homestead and all that beautiful work that you did. What a beautiful home that you provided to the next person, right? Let's take a break. When we come back, I want to talk about what's next, why Spain, and what your kids thought of leaving the country. We'll be back in just We are back talking with Heather, and we are talking about the transition now. You are calling in from Spain, and you just got there. We had to delay this interview a week just to make sure you had Wi-Fi. And I hadn't seen you on Instagram in a while. You aren't as active on Instagram as you had been for a while. And all of a sudden you popped up in my feed that you were moving to Spain. I thought, what did I miss? What did I miss? And so tell me about the decision to leave the country. And your kids are ages now. Your oldest is 18. How old's your youngest?
10.
10. And she was about 5 when I met her, and she took me around on a tour of your house, and adorable. And so, yeah, all the kids are on board. Are they like, I don't know, I kind of like where we are. Does everyone say, yeah, let's leave the country, let's pack it all up again and see what happens? You know, you went from not only a big house, but land and, you know, all the things that go into having acreage, and you sold stuff and put stuff away and you packed it up again. So was everybody on board? And then Joe's left his practice. He's no longer a dentist. So
yeah.
Wow.
So yeah, so many changes, right? So is everybody on board? I think I would definitely say yes. You know, we've raised adventurous kids, and we've done that. We've done that on purpose, and you know, we've moved a few times.
Adaptable.
Yes, and that was really important to me, because that's kind of how I grew up, and I think it just helps you manage life so much easier.
Yes.
And so I really did want to give that to my children, and so we did. And so, but moving to the country, yes, or out of the country, definitely is a whole nother level, right?
So what is the plan and what is the intent? Why Spain, or why leave the country? What is the intent, and what do you hope to accomplish there? Not accomplish in the traditional sense, but what do you hope to experience, I should say?
Yeah, well, I mean, Joe and I have been doing mission trips to Europe for 5 years now. I think ever since we moved to Austin. And so I think that's kind of why moving to Europe wasn't such like a huge, you know, out of the ordinary thing for our kids. And I think it was a lot more palatable, because we leave all the time to go to Europe. And so, to be honest with you, I wish I could tell you that what the plan was, but we don't really have a plan. We honestly really don't have a plan. And I think it's really to focus a lot more on our children and on our marriage and on ourselves. And we do still want to do mission trips, but
a little simpler to do from there than from the state, right?
Yes, definitely. Yes, definitely. But, you know, I think I've just realized over the past several years that when the core element, who is you, is healthy and good, like you said, it has a ripple effect, right? And so we have spent the past 4 to 5 years getting healthy ourselves. And now I think we're really ready to expand that to our children and helping them build healthy habits. um, and and then to do ministry and work outside our family as well. But it's just kind of working our way out, you know? And yes, exactly. Like we just kind of really wanted a fresh environment for our kids to do that. Because there were a lot of things that we tried to implement at home, and they would kind of get undone when the kids went to school. Um, and and so we're just like, you know what, let's just do a clean slate and move to a totally different country. And hopefully like these, you know, habits and healthy things that we're trying to implement will stick a lot more. And we're also homeschooling. And so I think that's helps a lot as well.
Right. Right. And well, I think too, we're just wrapping up here, but I want to continue to follow your story. And I think next time, let's have your kids on too, a couple of them. I've interviewed them in your home and we've included them in the shows when I was in your home. But I think that this perspective is good for kids today to see that, you know, there's all these different ways to get to the goal of your family. And I think when we as parents are doing the work to try to figure out what's best for our kids and our family, not everyone's going to move to Europe. Not everyone's going to buy a homestead somewhere other than where they were, but certainly getting that opportunity to show your kids some other side of life than they ever would have seen. And that can be done in so many ways, even if you never leave your county or your
Yes.
city, and
Yes.
having the expectation that your kids aren't always on their phones or aren't addicted to video games or, you know, have outside interests that maybe are outside of the box of what is typical in our American society. So to have picked up yourselves and gone to another country to achieve that, I'll be very interested to find out what their perception is of that over time, for sure.
For sure. Yeah. They'd
Yeah.
love it.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much for your time. I wish you the very best there. Say hello to Joe and the kids, and we'll definitely be in touch and I'll be following along on social media. And I appreciate your time. I know you're just swamped trying to get settled in. I can't wait to see your office when you're done because you're so creative.
Oh, thank you. Yes. Thank you, Lisa. It's been amazing. Thank you so much.